everyone, this is McCool and the gang, and we're here with Tanya Mellotte and Mark Gordon. Hello!
Hi!
Hi!
How are you both doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Just, one day at a time.
Yes, indeed. How are you, Mark?
Excellent here as well. Yeah, I mean, can't complain. Very good. 7.5 out of 10. Possibly 8.
I like it. So we're here to chat about various things, but I just want to give people a bit of background on how we all met, because it's kind of a funny situation, because I met you both separately, but you've known each other for years, which I think is mental, like the way the world works. So it would be great if you could each kind of give people a bit of an insight into what you do and like how you're kind of dealing with lockdown. So maybe Tanya, you want to go first?
So I'm Tanya, and I am predominantly a songwriter, vocalist and producer. I've been writing songs and making music for a very long time now. Been in various bands over the years, done a lot of like backing vocals and vocal work with various people. Yeah, at the moment it's mostly co-writing. And I suppose my best known work these days would be some tracks that I co-wrote that were on Killing Eve seasons 1 and 2. You've seen Killing Eve, haven't you?
Yeah. We watched it together.
Oh, we did?
We did, yeah. We watched it when I was in Belfast.
So we did, yeah.
So we
and was
did.
I going, yeah, I co-wrote that one. See that? But there's me on the backing vocals as well there.
Well, it's interesting because you were telling me about the, the credits song.
Oh, Expectations.
Yeah, I've been watching season 3, and every time that comes on, I remember what you telling me, like the vocal score and how it's really interesting, and like do 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 do.
Oh yes, no, even recording that was just brilliant fun.
Yes, it sounds it.
Yeah, and we were being like conducted and everything. Yeah, so Tyler, the chap that arranged the backing vocals and harmonies for that track, when he was like teaching it to us and then conducting us recording it, it was just really brilliant fun. But yeah, if you listen to the track, it's
Do 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 do. Oh, it's so good. And me and you have written a few times together since we met.
Yeah, so we met in Nashville, of course.
Yes.
Which was great, a really great writing week that we had there with some other friends who I know have been on your podcast already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was chatting to you in Nashville, that's when I realised that you knew Mark already.
Yeah, because me and you, Mark, met on a similar songwriting camp in LA, which was like specifically for film and TV.
Yes, we met at the BPI or DIT, MPA, just all the UK music acronyms got together and thought it would be a bit of a giggle to do like a songwriting part of this thing that had been happening in LA for years and years and years, which is called the Sync Mission, which is when kind of up to 40 or 50, I guess, kind of rights holders or catalog holders go across to Los Angeles and kind of spend a week pitching their music to music supervisors, because as we all know, every other part of the industry is like on its knees, but sync and kind of music placement is still a thing. So when we met there, I had gone out there in the first year it was happening. I had heard about it, and the work that I do involves songwriting for media quite a lot, because I'm a composer, mainly working, I suppose, in animation and kids' TV stuff. Actually, all the stuff that we co-write within the group of people who I work with. So I rocked out there having really, apart from like, writing with people like Tanya historically, I had never co-written. So, there are all these people who rocked up 10 o'clock every morning, kind of full of like how you start to co-write a song. So like maybe you play music, or maybe you have a chat about the weather. You find kind of, some sort of icebreaker or something. And I had no idea how to do any of that stuff. So I felt, actually, to be completely honest, massively intimidated by being in that situation. But year 1 was good, and a couple of tracks I co-wrote got into a couple of placements, and then I came back for year 2 again same thing, just kind of like, can I join, please? And we wrote together on I'm going to say day 2 or 3. We wrote a song together, and you were very good at co-writing songs, and I felt like you had done it before. and also you have an amazing voice as well, because the song that we co-wrote together, it was for a specific scene in a specific film, and it required like, I feel like almost like a kind of 90s TLC on Vogue kind of thing.
Yeah, that channeled Tony Braxton so much for that.
Yeah, so I remember, because I am, unlike Tanya, I am no singer at all. And I remember that there's that thing in kind of co-writing any song where you get to, like, someone's got to step up and do the vocals, and that's the point at which I'm like, Sudoku, here I come. And I felt like you were in the booth for about 2.5 hours, layering all this sort of stuff.
I love it.
But the song was really brilliant, and that's how we first met. What a privilege to say, oh yeah, we met in a studio in Los Angeles with like Gruff from the Super Furry Animals and some other songwriters.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
LA is an interesting place, because Tanya, you spent some time there recording an album previously.
Yes, yeah, I lived there for a year. It was a great experience, actually. Met loads of really interesting people. Like, you'd just be, randomly having a coffee somewhere after going for a run, and then you'd be chatting to these people, and what do you do? Oh, I play bass. Oh, are you in a band? Yeah, I'm in the Black Keys. Like, what? So, you just like randomly meeting people in the industry, and like everyone you speak to is like, oh, you should meet this person. And yeah, really interesting experience. And I ended up doing a lot of recording there from myself, and also doing a lot of vocal stuff with David Holmes and his band Unloved, who are still going. And I started off just doing backing vocals for that first record with them, and then sort of towards the end of that recording process, they were like, well, do you want to do some co-writing on this as well? So I ended up doing like 4 tracks on that album, and just, to be doing it in like just amazing studios with amazing equipment, as you can imagine, all this like really vintage stuff. Very lucky to be in a situation like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really cool. Yeah.
I think my experience, I think I love LA. It's such a great place. And you're right, like, you do meet loads of people, and everyone seems to be in the same field. Obviously, it's like a massive hub for film and TV. But it's interesting, because for me, as a songwriter, I used to writing for my own project. I'm used to writing really autobiographically. And all of a sudden, to have to write, not as myself, in a way, for a brief. Tanya, I remember you did a track in Nashville that was to a brief as well. It was for Batman.
It was for Gotham. It was the show called Gotham, yeah.
I remember listening to that and thinking, God, that's really good. Like, they've really nailed that brief. So I just wonder how you both how you find work into that as a songwriter or as like a music creator.
Definitely a bit of an adjustment, but it's still sort of storytelling, really, isn't it? So getting into the character. Natalie, when you and I were writing together, the amount of time that we spent going, if you were in this situation, I mean, how would you really feel about this? And, you sort of talk about, are you upset because of this? Are you upset because of that?
Yeah.
Or do we care at this point about this person? Like, how much do we care? I feel like we don't care anymore about this,
Yeah.
And it's sort of like trying to get into the character so that then you can write from that character's perspective, I suppose.
So nuanced.
Mark, what do you think?
So, well, I think, the question that you speak to comes down to whether, as a person who's a musician and who writes repertoire, for whatever reason, whether you're kind of more someone who's more like a kind of composer, or whether you're more a kind of songwriter. Because in the work that I do, especially working on kids stuff, been lucky enough now to probably write, 600 or 700 episodes of kids TV, mainly animation and some live action as well. It's like all of that stuff is commissioned. So that's stuff that is not generated from kind of the fact that one day I woke up and I had a feeling and I wanted to articulate that feeling through music. So I kind of sat down and wrote a song about it, and it was like innate expression. It's a bit like the kind of So you're Bon Iver, right? And you feel sad, and you've been dumped by Emma, and you got to a cabin in the woods, and you spend 4 months, and you kind of like cry a lot, and you write some songs. And then on the other end, it's like, okay, it's Tuesday, and we have to write the song about the cupcake. Because, like, we've been told we're doing the cupcake episode. So it's like, okay, cool, let's do the cupcake song. It's like two things. It's like, you can be the sort of person who's just into responding to that and finding like as much fun and creativity from doing that. But also you're kind of aware that there's like 90 or 100 people in a production pipeline for something that you're working on, and the production can't move forward until you've got it right. And right might not. In fact, often it won't be what you think is right. It's what like 3 execs in London and 2 execs in New York and somebody in Los Angeles and someone else, they might think is right. So obviously, you know, we all know this. You could do like your best work and it could be like, oh, do you know, we just feel like you didn't nail it.
You didn't nail the cupcake.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, can you just have one more run at doing it?
And this time really be the cupcake.
Be it.
Be the cupcake.
So it's that thing whereby, you know, talk to people, as I do like a lot, about kind of composing versus kind of songwriting and co-writing. In composing, the notes and the feedback can be absolutely, you know, they can be tough. If you haven't nailed something, that is difficult, and you need to have a kind of resilience that is different to if you're co-writing a song and it's for, you know, something, and then it maybe doesn't go the distance. You don't get a kind of brutal set of notes back going, you just have not got this correct. In composing, you know, it's so kind of like feedback and notes based that you get kind of, you know, constructive criticism all the time and things. So as I said, I think there's a different kind of sort of resilience that comes with that, and it is definitely like co-writing. I think it is not for everyone for those reasons, because it is difficult and challenging, and it's not about innate expression. It can be highly creative, but it's just, do you know what I mean? It's just like a different sort of thing.
Your brain is in a different place in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. And for some people, like, as I said, for some people that doesn't work. So yeah, it's interesting. Definitely.
Yeah, because I write sometimes like top lining for pop, and it's the same with that, because like with my own, like, and I'm sure you're the same, Tanya, like with your own solo project, you can be very precious. I don't like anybody trying to tell me what to do or trying to change it. I'm really like, no, it's mine. But with like pop songwriting for other people, if someone doesn't like it or they want something changed, you've got to just take that on board and like completely remove your personal feelings about it, because it's for them. So you really have to take a step back, and I feel like it's in the same kind of way. Don't know how you feel about that, Tanya.
Yeah, I mean,
I've written songs with you quite a bit, and I would say that you're very like determined for a certain, not a sound, but you know how it should be.
I mean, I suppose I can only really think of like one time I co-wrote a song that I ended up not liking.
Yeah.
It's not one that we did together, don't worry. But so
tell me if it was. As constructive feedback, it's all good.
No. But even that, at the end of the day, you know, I didn't feel like, oh, today wasn't a good day. Do you know what I mean? Because, like I said earlier, you know, it's definitely an adjustment when you're writing for yourself, or when you're writing for other people, or writing with other people.
How did you find it writing for the like collaborating for the Killing Eve stuff?
I really liked that. The first track that I did with them happened really quickly. I mean, you know, we had this amazing sort of instrumental piece of music to work with, so it was only a few hours until we finished the rest of it, and that track was When a Woman Is Around by Unloved, which you can still hear on all streaming platforms.
It's great.
Yeah, so because that one was sort of so well received, it was just like, yeah, just do more, keep going. So once I kind of had my sort of like the confidence then that what I'd done the first time, had been acceptable.
Yeah.
Then I was like, the gates were open then. Okay, let's go.
Do you think the sound of the Killing Eve stuff dictates the songwriting? Because I think it's a really specific sound. Is it David kind of responsible for the sound of it? And then that kind of dictates the songwriting in a way?
Yeah, I think early on, I mean, David had certain reference points for sure that, I mean, you have to remember that the band came first before the TV show. I think it was kind of a bit of a coincidence that the TV show and the music Unloved just happened to fit so well. Yeah, I mean, he definitely had a vision for what he wanted them all to do together. So, because I was living in LA at the time and was hanging around with all those people, so there was like 5 of us all singing. The vocals were very layered. There's a bit of a kind of Shangri-La's vibe to the whole thing. Yeah, it was really exciting. Like, I remember him playing all these instrumental tracks and just sort of thinking, oh, this is going to be fantastic when it's finished and everybody hears this. Like, I was already a fan as a listener, so then to be involved was really cool.
Yeah, interesting what you said at the start, Mark, that you hadn't done much co-writing before, or any co-writing before. I remember my first co-writing session and it was terrible. And it was so awkward. And what you were saying, Tanya, about us too, when we're writing, we just go deep into characters and deep into how you're feeling. And like, if you're comfortable with another writer, that you can do that. And you can just like say anything and everything is acceptable. Yeah. There's no kind of filter. And that's what I love about co-writing, because even more than when you're writing by yourself, you kind of get into that headspace, and it's so strange. Like, it shouldn't be that way, but
yeah.
It is.
I'm definitely not embarrassed anymore about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'll straight up burst into tears in the middle of writing a line because it's just so sad or something. In fact, the last time that happened, I was writing with this guy in Belfast, and literally halfway through the line I started crying, and I sort of was like, well, I'm really sorry, don't worry, I'm okay. It's just, this is very sad, like what's happening to this character.
It's when you know it's good.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. And he said, do you think it's too sad? I was like, no, this is great. Like, it's making me cry. So what is the listener going to think if it's making me cry and I'm the one that's typing it out,
Yeah. There's a great quote that I heard in a songwriting panel the other day. It won't get to the heart if it's not from the heart. And I thought that was great. Like, that's so true.
That's nice.
So both of you guys are in Belfast. And I visited Belfast earlier this year and saw you both and did some writing with Tanya, and that was really great. But I just want to kind of find out a bit more about the Belfast scene, because I know, Mark, you have Output, the music festival.
Yeah, it's a kind of busman's holiday from the day-to-day work, I suppose, which is, booking a conference. So I've always been kind of, like many people in music, when you're not kind of writing music and doing all the other sort of stuff, there is this calendar of conferences and whatnot, and we go to South by Southwest and speak there every year, and a lot of conferences in Europe and the UK about sync and this and that and composing and stuff. So I had the opportunity to kind of create one, I suppose, in Belfast, which, Output been going for 6 years now, and is a kind of fire hose for the local industry. And it means as well, I've been very lucky to kind of bring amazing people across to come and speak at it. So, Amy LeMay, The Nightmare of London, or Steve Albini, kind of record producer from America. Composers like Disaster Piece, who works in video games. We did something with Public Service Broadcasting last year about the commission they did for the Titanic and whatnot. So, yeah, there's a really strong buzzy scene in Belfast, and it's good to be involved in events that kind of amplify the sort of local community and the local music scene.
Talking about Output, I know, Tanya, you did a panel for that as well.
Yeah, that was great, actually. That was PRS for music.
What was that on?
It was on the economics of being a songwriter. Is it a real job? I think we concluded that yes, it is a real job.
Well, for many people it's a real job, and for many people it is not. It's interesting doing industry panels, isn't it?
Yeah, it was brilliant. A really brilliant day. Loads of great bands played afterwards. It was well done, Mark. It was a really, really excellent event.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, obviously, I've been to like a lot of different conferences over many, many years and really kind of thought very hard in running any panel or moderating any session or being a speaker on a panel. The only thing to think about is what the audience needs to hear. So what happens too often in conferences with speakers, and especially the generation of speakers, you know, who maybe been in the industry 15 or 20 years, they kind of have this slightly lean back attitude. A lot of people tend to go, oh, well, so here's a great story about something that happened in 1999 that really kind of articulates this point that I'm trying to make. Like, nobody wants to hear that. And I kind of really, really, really push back from that. You know, and the thing about it is, in the music industry, because we're used to this part of the industry and being called upon to do kind of bits of public speaking, there's assumptions that are made that anybody who works in music can be a great public speaker by virtue of the fact that, you know, they're A&R in Columbia and they've signed, you know, a Brit Award winning singer band. I often think that, like, the first thing that a lot of people in music who do this kind of work and aren't very good at it should consider is, can I actually do public speaking? Can I actually be on a stage and give super relevant, useful, handy information to the audience? Because it's not enough to just rock up and be like, I signed Lissy and I signed, I don't know, you know, by virtue of kind of my pedigree and my chops, I should be allowed to kind of like have a voice and chat to you about publishing or, you know, online press or whatever. You know, I think it's brilliant that people in music offer themselves up to kind of speak in conferences, but like a lot of people forget the audience. And you can't do that.
I agree. You know what that makes me think of? A panel I went to, and I won't mention who it's by, but my pet hate in panels, especially music industry panels, is where they go, if you're good enough, people will find you. You just got to keep going and it'll happen. And I'm like, bullshit. Can you please give me some actual practical advice on...
Yeah.
I don't care if people find me. I want to know what I can do. Yeah,
people who take attitudes like that, it's almost sort of slightly patronizing.
Yeah, so patronizing.
I remember first time I went to South by Southwest, and it was still fueled on the idea that an A&R person would walk into a bar that, you know, 3 people were standing in and see the band that were going to become, whatever, the Foo Fighters. It's utterly ridiculous. So anyway, conferences, yes, they can be good. Sometimes they can be awful. But hopefully the one that we do is good.
Yeah, I'm sure. I need to come one year and check it out. That'd be lovely. I think an engaging speaker is so important, definitely. And yeah, whenever I'm on a panel, I always try and think as much about the audience and about who's asked the question and what they kind of need from me. I think that's really important. The idea of industry people being gatekeepers, which I think is bullshit, because an artist can do a lot and then become some kind of gatekeeper, like look at Ed Sheeran.
That is completely true. Tanya and I were in a band together, and we started in the mid-90s, shall we say? The second half of the 90s. And at that point...
What's the band called?
The band was called Tunic. And at that point, it was the case that because of the way the media was working, there were some people who were considered gatekeepers and at that point did have like a lot of power. So, you know, Steve Lamacq in the evening session, we were lucky enough to do a lot of Peel sessions for John Peel, which kind of lent in a certain area. You know, NME and Melody Maker, and that was a big thing as well. And, you know, there was a kind of make or break attitude that was really, it wasn't very, it didn't feel like a level playing field at all. It felt like there was like 10 or 15 people and that was it. If one of them didn't really love you, it was over. And it felt incredibly subjective. So in many ways it is a massive cliche, but it's much more of a level playing field.
Interesting you mentioned Tunic. It must be nice for both of you to live in Belfast and be such a big part of the music fabric. I always get the impression whenever you're speaking about, you know, who you know in the city and what's going on, like I get the impression that you both are really invested in that.
Yeah. I mean, as well as being in a couple of different bands together, Mark and I had a club night, which started in 1998 and ran for almost 11 years every Saturday night. That's a long time. That's a big commitment. It was called Ski Bunny, and basically it was indie, hip hop, soul, electronica, just kind of like everything all mixed in together, and people seemed a little bit shocked by that because nobody else was really doing it. So the night expanded quite quickly, and within a couple of months it was probably sold out every week and continued to be sold out every week for the duration. And Mark and I got to travel around the world as Ski Bunny DJs and play at festivals in Glastonbury, and we got to go to Japan and play in America and Europe, and
it's amazing.
It was a trip.
Yeah, and it was also, I mean, we also booked a lot of bands, because at that time in Northern Ireland, the touring circuit was such that like it really cost a lot of money to play shows in Ireland, because if you're a band, you had to get a ferry across or, you know, fly across, and the audience wasn't, you know, probably as evolved as audiences in the rest of the UK, especially for more kind of experimental or difficult or kind of like alt indie or alt folk or alt electronica. But we kind of, having been in Scotland and been so kind of lucky to experience so much amazing alternative live music, you know, as well as doing the club, we booked bands under the same name, Ski Bunny. So we booked, you know, we booked shows by people like Sparkle Horse, or we booked early shows by Fridge, which is now Kieran Hedden, the DJ, Fortet. We did early shows by Snow Patrol and Two Door Cinema Club and kind of local bands as well. And, you know, lots and lots and lots of live music from the UK, Europe, America. Lots of bands that were on Domino Records, American bands that we really loved that just couldn't get booked in Belfast. Yeah. And never really to make money, which sounds incredibly naive. But actually it was kind of, you know, the compunction was, if we don't book this band, nobody will book this band, therefore we won't get to see them. That'll be annoying, therefore we should probably book them. So in a very kind of indie, DIY, ad hoc way, we did a lot of that stuff as well.
You curators?
Well, yeah, and it was just driven by, you know, a really kind of selfish thing, which was, well, I'd like to see that band play. Like, no one else is going to book them.
It was many years before we realised that it would have been cheaper for us to fly to any city in the world, buy a ticket, book a hotel, go and see the band in that city and just have loads of booze. You know,
I'm glad you did it the other way.
Yeah, it was great.
And I'm sure a lot of people are glad you did it the other way.
Oh yeah, like people talk about various gigs that happened, and then, you know, people put out their ticket stubs that they still have. You know, you'll get some amazing band and a really good local support and a club night afterwards for £5. I mean,
yeah, like, you know, we booked like the Handsome Family for £3 or something like that.
Did they play Bop?
No,
not
not
Hanson.
No, the Handsome Family.
It was never to make money. We had no sense about doing that. I'm kind of interested in this idea these days of kind of people who are polymaths in music. I find myself really drawn. The music that I love at the moment is music that is made by people who do lots of different things, and they're all kind of creative and they're all awesome. So like easy examples of that, kind of like if you look at like Nick Cave, or if you look at Anna Meredith, or if you look at someone like Jeff Barrow from Portishead, who's now, you know, doing a record label and scoring and kind of playing in a band called Big. Or David Holmes, you know, someone who's like a producer but also has a film company, has directed as well, does a band project but also does scoring. People who are the most interesting to me are people who are in like many, many, many different lanes in music. So they're not just doing one thing. They're doing lots and lots of different things. And if there's a kind of thread across what we've done in music, then it's probably the idea of being like a polymath, of doing like lots of different things. And not because of like, you know, the fact that we get bored easily or because we lose interest. You know, anything that I want to do, I want to do it really bloody well. It's the kind of classic lean-in curiosity that sort of is what drives me personally definitely forward.
Yeah. I think it's a lot about how you define yourself, because a lot of people within my world, like solo artist, a lot of people just want to be defined by that, and everything they do kind of fits within that project. It's like about how you define yourself personally. And yeah, most interesting people, I guess, are people who have a variation of like the way they express themselves creatively. Like PJ Harvey for me is another, like, she's my idol, but I think she's a similar, you know,
polymath.
Yeah. But even taking our club Ski Bunny as a starting point, you know, it wasn't just that. We started, you know, marketing ourselves a bit more as Ski Bunny DJs and getting to tour. And then we started remixing other bands. And then because of the way that we were doing the remixes, then we thought, you know, we should probably just do our own record, because we're doing all our own music and then taking the a cappella from another band and turning it into a remix. So why don't we just like make our own record? So then we did an album. So the whole thing just kept morphing and changing and stuff pretty organically.
It sounds like the process, I was just about to say, like, very organic.
Yeah.
A lot of people try and force things and like, by this time I want to be here and doing that, and you can't really do that in this industry. You've got to see, it's like doors just open, don't they? You don't know where, but it will happen.
I completely agree with that. If you kind of have that attitude, and if you are quite free, you open yourself up to meeting so many different people across so many different parts of the kind of creative landscape.
How do we know each other? Because we've all done that.
Yeah, right. So that's a perfect example, right? So then actually what you find kind of going forward is that you're sort of, not your address book, but your kind of...
I'd say universe.
Yeah, your creative community is really kind of interesting and sort of inspiring. I think a lot of people, when they think about networking, they kind of struggle because they don't realize that what networking is, in my opinion, is not networking. It's that you meet lots of people, and there are people you want to hang out with and have a beer or coffee or whatever, and maybe you'll write a song together or do something together. It could be now, it could be 10 years in the future. That's what's brilliant about the way we've kind of like done our music and done our thing, is that you get exposed to bazillions of people. And as I said, you can meet someone today and you could find that you could literally 10 years will pass. This has happened with me. And then there's like an email that's like, oh, yes, that sounds awesome. Let's go.
And it's interesting thing about current situation that we're all going through, and all this kind of additional time a lot of us have at the moment has given me a chance to have a think about some of these people I haven't spoken to in a while, met at various stages, you know, musically, and kind of getting in touch with them and going, you know, maybe now's a good time for a catch up. And they're like, yeah, give me a call tomorrow. And then next thing you know, there's a collaboration happening almost immediately. So, but I mean, even like when I came back from Nashville and I was like determined that I was going to just do as much co-writing as possible. And you and I had not been able to, we were not put together to write in Nashville. So I was keen that at some point we'd be able to write together. And then as luck would have it, I was going to Manchester to see a band play anyway. And that's when I gave you a shout. I was like, I don't suppose you're free next week for a few hours. And you were like, yeah, let's book a studio and do that. We've written a bunch together now, haven't we?
Yeah, we've done some really good stuff. I always like our songs. Like
I was saying like a second ago, you know, if you kind of meet people that you get on with and you think are cool, totally irrespective of the, you know, songwriting or music or whatever thing, you will, you know, they will stay in your kind of sphere of consciousness.
This might be a good time for you to tell the Dolly Parton story.
Well, we were very lucky in one of the shows that we did, and thank you, Tanya, for the to write songs for Dolly Parton for a kids show that we did for Nickelodeon Junior, and to go to kind of Tennessee and go to a studio and I'm me, you're Dolly.
That's insane.
And sit there and play guitar and have her sing the songs that I'd written in Northern Ireland. And like everybody says, all of our careers contain so many completely unexpected moments. It was a super day because she was voicing a character. She was voicing a chicken called Nolene. Where did that come from? And so, and her manager was like, the one thing she will have done will be learn the songs. And she rocked in at like 7:30 in the morning, ready to work. And yeah, it was incredible.
Wow.
Dolly Parton as a chicken. I have written those songs.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And he won an award for it as well.
Did you? Oh, what award?
Oh, yeah. We're lucky enough to win a Royal Television Society award for that. Yeah, which was incredible, actually, because we were up against, I'll just say that we were up against Line of Duty and The Fall, which obviously David scored. So, yeah, we were very, very, very lucky.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. I still sort of can't quite believe it. I look at the photos and I'm like, yeah. It's hard to believe.
Just to let everyone know, that's your company, Mark, scored your music, and that's your media.
Yes.
Music.
Yes.
The cupcakes.
That's it. The cupcakes. I mean, there's, you know, there's other stuff.
There's other stuff.
There's like songs about teddy bears and fairies and unicorns and stuff like that as well.
I'd love to see the inside of your brain when you're doing that.
We're not limited.
Well, thanks so much for coming on my podcast, and so good to chat to you both. Just quickly before you go, is there anything you've got coming up in the near future or in the long future? So
for us, at the moment, whilst in lockdown, the two parts of the screen industries that are continuing are animation and gaming. So we're doing a game for a Nintendo Switch game, which will be out, I think, next year. And then we're doing 2 series at the moment, one for Nickelodeon that's coming out in China, and then one for PBS Kids, which will be coming out, I think, in the autumn in America. So very much just kind of working on that. And also have been doing some writing with Tanya together, which has been completely amazing. And where it will end up, we don't know.
Yeah.
To wait and see.
What have you got coming up, Tanya? What are you working on?
So what have I got coming up? Well, at the moment, I'm just trying to focus on what things can be achieved at the moment. 2 things, really. One, I am working on my solo album, which started recording just before the lockdown.
Woohoo!
And then the other thing is doing a bit of film scoring, so hoping to have a short film to score. And then, as I say, Mark and I are working on something together, which is sort of yet to reveal itself. But yeah, thank you so much for inviting us to do this. It's great fun. Really nice to chat to you.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. And
no problem.
Yeah, I hope you're staying creative throughout this time, and I can't wait to see you both in real life, whenever that'll be.
Let's write some more songs soon.
Let's definitely write some more songs. Do 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 ha 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 ha. That's my new theme tune. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening. And don't forget to subscribe and follow to this podcast. I'm Natalie McCool, and you can find me and my music on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and also on my website, nataliemccool.co.uk. Thanks!
I think you're a magnet, and I'm a magnet too.